What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters and welcome to Unreleased Metal. I'm going to do a contest entry for SMF Cpt Howdy's contest, or Capper, or the Cap, or John, whatever you want to call me. If you guys watched my channel for any amount of time, you know who SMF Cpt Howdy is because he's a good friend of mine, lives in Canada. And yeah, I went out and visited him, did some videos with him a couple years ago out there in Canada, and just a great guy. But anyhow, his contest, 1987. So I've done videos with Trog on 1980 through 1986. 1987 is going to be the next year we do. However, I wanted to get into John's contest, so rather than doing like a top 10 or something like that in John's contest, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show 18, because that's what you guys requested, 18 albums from 1987 that I just like. You know, they're not necessarily in any kind of order, from best to worst, or any of that kind of thing. I just pulled 18 albums that I like, and I kind of tried to keep it to albums I hadn't seen on any other videos for this contest, because I was starting to see a lot of the same albums pop up. For instance, Aerosmith Permanent Vacation. I love that album. I mean, I'm a huge Aerosmith fan, but I'm not going to show it because, frankly, everybody already has. And I'm just going to stay away from showing any of the ones that John showed in his video as well. So, I'm going to get right into this. Mostly vinyl, but I'm going to show a few CDs because I don't have these on vinyl. I would love for this one to come out on vinyl. It never was released on vinyl or CD. This is a bootleg for Light Force Battle Zone. Now, it has been released on like various compilations with all these songs, but it was never released as a standalone album with a decent cover, which I particularly like this cover. This is a bootleg, oddly enough, it's on Hard Metal Records. Basically, it's the Hard Metal logo off of the board that I used to spend a lot of time at. But yeah, it's a bootleg of the very first full-length Light Force album. Like I said, was only ever released on cassette, was never picked up by label as far as I know. But just very straightforward, heavy metal, bit of a Manowar meets Iron Maiden vibe, but it's got a little more punk edge, kind of like the first couple Iron Maiden records, especially in the vocals, which are kind of delivered in that, you know, punk-like fury, like, I don't know, I guess like, you know, like Iron Maiden, like Paul Di'Anno. So good stuff. Of course, this was the band that eventually became Mortification. Steve Rowe is the bass player here. Later on, he took over vocal duties as well, went towards the death metal sound. But again, this is just straightforward heavy metal, highly inspired by the likes of Manowar and Iron Maiden. One of the early albums that I remember people calling grind or grindcore, but Napalm Death's Scum. This is, I don't know. I remember when it first came out, I was in college. Matter of fact, in 1987, I was in college, living in a what do you call it, an apartment with a bunch of guys, and we were all into metal, so we were all buying stuff, and I was working at a record store called Cabbages. But this is one of the albums that came out during that time, and I could just remember saying, if music is any faster, because this is ridiculously fast, ridiculously heavy, again, delivered with a punk ethic, I said it's going to sound like, you know, like an old, you know, the dial tone on the phone, and I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. It's just getting so fast. And that's the way it was with Scum. It was ridiculously short songs. It's just, you know, spurts of speed and aggression. This thing has 29 songs on it. I can't remember what the original album had. I think it had around that. I used to have this. It was on yellow. It was yellow. This one's purple. This one's on Earache. I believe the original I had was on Earache as well. So, Napalm Death Scum. Again, I was living in Rochester, New York, going to college. This was a local band there, and just a fantastic album. These guys were really popular in our area. They never really broke out of the area as far as I know, but this is Uncle Sam, Heaven or Hollywood. And a friend of mine who went to school with me actually became the drummer and replaced the drummer that's pictured here. But regardless, this is obviously a very controversial record cover. I put a sticky over the most controversial part there. But yeah, this is just, I don't know, trashy, punk-influenced, garage rock, a little bit glammy, like, but not glammy like Poison, you know, more glammy like T-Rex, you know, or David Bowie, that kind of stuff, you know. But it's got more of a punk edge. It's kind of, I don't know what the word is, sleazy, dirty, garage rock, it's just that style of rock. I never would have called this metal, but even back then, although they do kind of look like a metal band, and they had a lot of edge, so some people might call it metal. To me, it was more of a garage rock punk kind of style. But yeah, local band when I was growing up, living in Rochester, New York, upstate New York, and Uncle Sam, Heaven or Hollywood, 1987. I just happen to have the CD of that one, and this one is it's a new photo. It's not even the same photo. Obviously, she's got underwear on this picture, so whatever. The CD version has a couple of bonus tracks on there. Train Kept a Rollin' and Stepping Stone, so a couple of cover songs. Tried to keep this to a little more obscure stuff, but there's a few of them on here that I just had to show. I haven't seen anybody else show them, and Motorhead's Rock and Roll is one of those that when I was in college in '87 that just get played over and over and over again in our apartment. It's just a great record. Lemmy, of course, being the main man here, but you got Wurzel, who of course has since passed away. Filthy Phil Taylor, who has since passed away. Phil Campbell, the only surviving member of this lineup from 1987. Classic album cover as well. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of classic songs on here, but Rock and Roll, Eat the Rich, Stone Deaf in the USA, The Wolf, Dogs, Boogeyman, Motorhead. This one came out when I was in college as well. Obviously, all these did because I was in college. But Bloodgood, Detonation, this was their second album. I liked their first album when it came out. The first song kind of always threw me for a loop, that a cappella beginning of the song Accept the Lamb. But I still liked the album. I kind of wanted to just skip that part for some reason, but I thought this album was a vast improvement. Better songwriting, better production, better riffing, better vocals, just everything about it was just better. The song Battle of the Flesh is just a killer, almost a speed metal track, not unlike Black Snake from the first album. The two songs that went together were Crucified and Messiah, which is awesome, emotional songs. Anybody who's calls himself a believer or a Christian, those two songs are just gonna reach in and grab you by the heart. So very good album, solid, straightforward heavy metal from Bloodgood, Seattle, Washington band. Second album from Liege Lord. This one was on Metal Blade. This is the original pressing. Yeah, again, just straightforward heavy metal. A little more on the, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not galloping. Yeah, maybe galloping is the word. Majestic is the word I might use for this band. A little more majestic. A little more, pushing towards that early Queensryche sound. But don't mistake them for Queensryche. They are not Queensryche. They are a heavy metal band. Just very, very good. If you've never heard Liege Lord, do yourself a favor and check them out. A very good band. This one was their second album. They released a third album as well, which I actually like even more than this one. But all three of their albums are spectacular, in my opinion. Liege Lord. This is what I've shown before in other videos. I'm going to show it again. This is Impolitary, the Black Album, or the Black EP. This is his first release. Bought this in a record store in New Jersey. And I was told by, I can't remember who it was I was standing next to, but anyhow, they said he's kind of like Yngwie, but better. Yeah, I don't know if he's better than Yngwie, but regardless, he does have that kind of flair, that very neoclassical style guitar playing, very fast on the fretboard. But yeah, he's a little more song-oriented than Yngwie is. His songs aren't riffs just to solo over. They're actually songs, and they're built to be songs. And then he does some spectacular soloing within those songs. So great stuff, and of course Rob Rock being the vocalist here. Rob Rock's just, an absolute, what's the word I'm looking for? Metal giant. The guy's got such a huge, huge singing voice. So there's two from this guy, David T. Chastain. This is instrumental variations, and I'm going to say that these two are actually one to keep it at 18. But also Chastain, the Seventh and Never. I'm not huge on instrumental albums, but I do like this one. This is one of those ones I used to listen to a lot in college. Again, it was one of the ones right up there with Joe Satriani, Surfing the Yelling, which also came out that year, where we would just put this on while we were falling asleep in our dorm or wherever the heck we were, and it was just great music to relax to, and great album, great instrumental album. Whereas this is just pure metal. Great album. Leather Leone on vocals, fantastic female vocals. Again, Chastain's a total shredder, much like Impolitary. Yeah, not that far off actually, as far as that fast fretboard style of guitar soloing, but great vocals, great songs, very, very good heavy metal from Chastain, the 7th of Never. Pardon my sniffling, allergies are still bugging me. Second album from this band, this is Titan, not Triton, Titan, T-Y-T-O-N, Mind Over Metal on the Medusa label. I remember buying this one on cassette tape and playing it just over and over and over and over again. The intro to this thing is, there's like one intro track, it's called Fanfare. Awful. It's like this computer keyboardy kind of thing, and it sounds like it was recorded on a Casio, and it reminds me of like something you might hear before a newscast or something like that. Breaking news, yeah, that kind of thing. But otherwise, the songs on here are very good. Along the lines of like bands like, I'd say, Vicious Rumors, kind of pushing towards the speed metal thing a little bit, but staying more in the traditional sound, I'm trying to think of another band that might fit into that sound. Maybe Armored Saint would fit into their sound, straightforward, heavy metal. Sword from Canada, another one. I think this is their second and last album. They don't think they ever put anything else after this. Leatherwolf, that's one they remind me of as well. So, Mind Over Metal, Titan. This one I was actually just listening to in my car today, so when I was trying to think of 1987 albums, this one popped up immediately. Trouble, Run to the Light, third album from Metal Blade, white metal band. I remember back in the day, they were being promoted as white metal. I bought this album actually originally from the House of Guitars in Rochester, New York, and brought it back, and man, I just loved it. We played it over and over and over again. It was, just one of those ones. We were all artists, and the guys I was living with, so we'd play it while we were working on whatever art project we were working on. It's fantastic stuff. I always like the album cover too. It's pretty simplistic, Kind of has the stairs to heaven, I guess, the stairway to heaven, clouds, and it rolls around to the back, and you can see there's the Earth and the Trouble logo on there. But yeah, it's a fantastic record. The Misery Show song on here is one of my favorites. I often list this one as my favorite Trouble album, but you know what? It's gonna have to fight and duke it out for first place with the very first self-titled or Psalm 9 by Trouble. Good stuff. I didn't really call them doom metal back in the day. I guess it really wasn't a term that we were using a lot in the 80s. It was mostly just metal, So anyhow, regardless. One that you've probably seen in past videos because it's been sitting back here for a while because I've been playing it quite a bit. But one of my favorites from Canadian progressive thrash metal band. This is Voivod, Dimension Hatros, and I'm sorry. Rewind. This is Voivod, Killing Technology. Yeah, it's just a solid thrash metal album, but more progressive. Not quite the noisy style that they were on the first couple albums. They refined their sound a little bit. They were really unique in their sound, very artistic, if that's the correct word for it. Progressive, technical, just a great band, and this is a great album from them. So just one that I play over and over. I always love the cover art too. So actually, I like most of the especially the early Voivod album covers. Yeah, Voivod. This is kind of a rarity, one that sells for silly amounts of money. I've had this one forever, but this is Emerald Armed for Battle, independent release on the Metal Gem Records. It actually, I don't know. Some people say it came out in 86. Most of the sources I see say it came out in 87. The copyright on here is 86, but I'm fairly sure it came out in 87. So, yeah, regardless, it's in my list now. So, again, straightforward heavy metal from Canada, from California. Melodic, not necessarily commercial or anything like that. The band adopting that, you can kind of see they got that 80s LA metal style going with the colored spandex and just that whole stage show. I actually kind of think it's a cool picture. Regardless, Emerald Armed for Battle. I guess this would actually be EP because it's what, 6-song EP from Emerald. I got to see these guys play nearly a decade and a half later after this. Got to meet him, had him. They actually got a poster. They had some old promotional posters from this album left, so I got one of those signed by the band. This one was actually already signed by the band when I bought it, so the insert is signed. I'm not going to pull all that out. It's not the point of this video. Just showing some very good heavy metal albums from 1987. Third album from this next band, this is Law's Rocket. Their name often gets them, confuses people because it sounds like a LA glam band. But these guys started off as just a pure heavy metal band, kind of on the power metal side, pushing towards thrash, kind of like early Metal Church, Heretic, that kind of thing. Yeah, by the time this album came out, they were definitely had at least one foot, if not both feet, planted in the thrash metal ground. The cover looks thrash, the band looks thrash, the sound is thrash, so if it looks like thrash, it smells like thrash, it tastes like thrash, it must be thrash. And that's what you're going to get here with Know Your Enemy from Law's Rocket. Vastly underrated band from the 80s, obviously 1987. Another band I just heard recently, not this particular record, but this is Hellion. This is the first full-length album from Hellion. I'm not sure if this one actually came out at the end of 86 or beginning of 87. Doesn't really matter that much. It was picked up by Music for Nations, which this is a Music for Nations copy. And I believe 2 songs were added to it, if I'm not mistaken, from the original. Could be wrong on that. But yeah, it was released on Music for Nations in 1987 for sure. And that's what this is. Again, galloping, straightforward heavy metal with Ann Bolan on vocals, female vocals, not commercial, not pop, just straightforward heavy metal. Very good stuff. Always liked this stuff. Of course, Ann, who is right here, best known for being the owner of New Renaissance Records and releasing just a ton of great stuff. Matter of fact, some great stuff in '87, including stuff that I'm not showing because I'm limiting it to only 18. Moving on. This is Neon Cross. This was the first full-length album from Neon Cross. They had been on, demos released. They had been on compilations. This is their first full-length album. Always liked the simplicity of it. Simplistic, straightforward, heavy metal. It's not like there's no guitar shred on here, but there are solid guitar solos. The songs aren't really super fast, not doomy and slow. They're just kind of all mid-paced and heavy, memorable. The drumming is very straightforward and simple as well, but it just all works together. Vocalist David Raymond Reeves has a great, solid singing voice, not unlike maybe Rob Rock. These guys are from LA. They were playing that LA scene during that time. They just never really broke out like a lot of the bands did, I remember talking to, I think it was David Reeves one time about all the bands that were coming out at that time. He mentioned something about how he saw this band that was just horrible on stage, just terrible. And he goes, and they were just shocked to find out that this band was being picked up by Elektra Records and it was Motley Crue. He goes, yeah, the singer couldn't sing, and he was just telling me all this stuff, and then he got picked up by Elektra Records, and he's like, what about this band and that band? There were so many great bands on the LA Strip that weren't getting picked up, and they pick up that stuff. And of course, that was a long time ago, and everybody knows who Crue is now. But my copy is actually signed by David, who is a friend of mine. Ultimatum has shared the stage with these guys many times. They actually recorded more songs. I believe they recorded a whole second album that never was released. Broke up, years later reformed and put out an album called Torn that was more of a straightforward hard rock, Zeppelin-esque, even a little bit grungy sounding. They also recorded on several EPs, several compilations again. But that second album remains unreleased to this day. I've never heard it. The band tells me they have it, but again, I've never seen it. Last one, I think I'm at 18. First solo album for Udo Dirkschneider. This is U.D.O, Animal House. This sounds more like Accept than the Accept album that came out the same year. With David Reese, is that what it is? Yeah, on vocals, but that album's good too. I always thought that Ecstasy would have been awesome if Udo had recorded it off of the Accept album that came out with Reese on vocals. But anyhow, it wasn't on this album. This album was on that album. Years and years later, U.D.O did record a cover of Ecstasy, which is a great song. I like the U.D.O version better than the Accept version, but yeah, this song is basically an Accept album with different players. A lot of these players on here were playing with, I believe it was Warlock at the time, and they joined U.D.O, and of course U.D.O is still around to this day, as well as Accept. So, classic, great album from. If you're a fan of 80s Accept and you don't own this, you're doing yourself a disservice, because it's, literally the songs were written by the guys in Accept, the same guys who recorded all those great, Restless and Wild and Balls to the Walls and Russian Roulette, all those great albums. Same songwriters are on there that were on here. So it's just, Accept went for a different sound with an American singer, and U.D.O kept the Accept sound. So there you go. 18 or so albums from 1987. There you go, John. I hope you liked that video. Appreciate you all watching. Let me know what albums you would have, shown for 1987. So do check out John's channel if you haven't already. I'm sure if you watch my channel, you watch his channel. He's a veteran. So that's it. Appreciate you all watching. God bless. Stay strong.